Hello everyone, my name is Luca Pedrelli. In this video we're going to be taking a look at my game prototype, ScalarField. I made this prototype during the CZ Spectrum game programming course. So the idea behind the game is to have a top-down RPG where thermodynamic is simulated like in the real world. To achieve this, I am simulating air through the grid of particles you see in the scene, right? And the heat flows through the air. So if you heat up an actor, its heat starts expanding through the air and warms up the surroundings, and the actor itself gets colder. This level is set in a snowy mountain, and the goal of the player is to get a key to open the temple of the enemy tribe. The enemies are cold-based mages. The spells they cast are aim at lowering the temperature around them. They are comfortable when the temperature is low, whilst the player is a fire mage, so they want the temperature to get higher, and the cold environment harms them. The characters take damage when their temperature goes outside a given interval called the comfort interval. For our player here, the comfort interval is between 295 and 315 degrees Kelvin, while the enemies start taking damage when their temperature goes above 295 kelvins, right? So to win, the player is trying to warm up the environment so that it gets comfortable for them and difficult to live in for the enemies. Um, a lot of things are going on in the in the video, as you can see. We will replay it soon. The idea is that the player has three spells. The first spell is called Carbonize and is used by the player to target trees and increase their temperature so that they can start warming up the environment. This spell is very costly, mana speaking, but it can be cast at every temperature, even when the player is suffering from cold damage. The second spell is called Fireball, and it's the main spell the player will use for attacking. You just saw it starting from the player being cast. Okay, so the Fireball is a very powerful spell, very low cooldown, it doesn't have a huge mana cost. The problem with it is that it requires the player's temperature, which is represented by the thermometer on the bottom right, to be at least 300 degrees Kelvin. So we first have to cast Carbonize and make the environment more comfortable for ourselves before starting to fire our fireballs. And the third spell the player has is it's a wind essentially, which is represented by a capsule in the video, and the wind doesn't do a lot of damage. It's meant to push the enemies towards the hottest areas so that they can start taking serious damage caused by the temperature. Okay, we just saw that the player managed to open the door and finish the level. Let's replay the video. Okay, let's talk about the enemies. We have two kinds of enemies here, the chasers and the stabilizers. The chasers are very aggressive enemies that move towards the player and try to cast a Cone of Cold on them. Cone of Cold is a spell that you will see in just a second, spawns a blue cone. The cone is blue because it's really, really cold, which starts cooling down everything it touches. So it's very dangerous for the player. The second spell the chasers have at their disposal is the thermal wind, the same spell the player has. And the stabilizers, in turn, are not aggressive. Their purpose is just to find allies that are suffering because it's too hot for them, and cast the Ice Shard spell that you are seeing on the chaser on the left here. Right, the Ice Shard is a very cold globe that follows the target it is cast on and cools them. While playing, you might have seen some items like this health potion being dropped by the enemies. The health potion restores health for its user, while this other item here is a magic wand and it's used to restore mana. So as we said, carbonite is very, very expensive, and this magic wand will be very useful in a second. So we will now use it to restore our mana and burn down the first tree. And we will now replenish our mana with the second magic wand and burn the second tree here. We want to make this forest burn. We want to make this the worst possible environment for our enemies. Now, of course, the enemy, since the enemy cast the Cone of Cold, they are counterbalancing our trees being burned down. And also, as you can see, we don't have the temperature to cast a Fireball yet here, because we need to reach the 300 kelvins. So let's move the enemies away while we warm up. Oh, yes, I didn't mention that the game has a tactical pose. You can see the pose status on the bottom left. This is used by the player to make choices. During the pose, it's possible to target. And now that we reach the temperature, it's basically over. From this area, from this very hot area here, we can cast all the fireballs we want. Our mana regen is very, very high. Here, another magic wand is being dropped, but we don't even need it. Of course, we might be damaged by our own fire spells. If the player's temperature goes above 315 degree Kelvin, they will start suffering from from fire damage, temperature being too hot. So we use the enemy's idols to cool down. Yep. Now this chaser is taking a lot of damage due to its temperature being too high, and they drop the key. So we take the key and we open the door to the temple. And also kill the stabilizer, because why not? Alright. Thank you very much for watching this video.